I know that you're a meditator. I know you're a runner. And so I believe in mind, soul, body connection. You've been feeding that for the 9 decades, basically. Tell us a little bit about that.
You know, I run on 8 cylinders, maybe 12. Again, no red lights. It really does describe a lot of how my life was lived. And I live like a person who sincerely believes I'm going to live to 114. That has a lot to do. My psyche is such that I feel somewhat invincible. I'm going to get there somehow or other. If I don't get there, you can come to my funeral and laugh if you're still alive. I say to myself, I think I'm a freak. I look around the room. Everybody comes in on a walker or a cane. Every one of them is wearing a hearing aid. I think whatever I've done, it's kept me in pretty good shape at this stage.
So joining us now on Open Book is the legend himself, Mr. Alan Patricof. He's a venture capitalist. He's actually a venture capital pioneer. He's a veteran investor, but he wrote a phenomenal book, which I actually give out to people, Alan. I can't tell you the number of books I have purchased for high school graduates, college graduates, business school graduates, etc. No Red Lights is the title of the book. Reflections on Life, 50 Years in Venture Capital, and Never Driving Alone. It's an awesome title, by the way. So I want to start with the title, if you don't mind. Okay, it's very clever. Why'd you come up with that title, sir?
Anthony, it really is pretty obvious when you think about it, the literal meaning of what no red lights are. First of all, you don't want to walk down a major thoroughfare with me with streets in between because you might get killed. So literally, I don't really pay much attention to red lights. But on a figurative sense, I have lived my life with only the word yes and doing everything in real time and being open to any and all opportunities. And that includes not just things that are brought to you to ask you if you'd like to be part of something, but also things you reach out for and grab because you think they're interesting. And I felt when I sat down to write this book, which I did on a yellow lined paper, you'll forgive me in my own handwriting, I wrote 80,000 words just from almost stream of consciousness. I was thinking about all the young people who've worked for me over the years, like people today working with me in my current projects, who all they do is keep their nose to the grindstone, do their spreadsheets till all hours of the night and weekends, lawyers who do briefs, architects who just sit there at the desk doing drawings, and really, I don't want to say smell the flowers, but really take advantage, as I have, of politics, of international development, of classic car collecting, of running, as you know. I'm sure you want to get into it. I ran the marathon. I was the oldest person that finished the marathon last year at age 88. And I just am someone who has taken advantage of these. And I thought about all the young people who just don't really seize the moment. And at the same time, I was concerned with a lot of people I knew, friends of mine and people I came acquaintance with, who at age 60 were retiring. And by the way, a lot of firms have forced retirement rules, and they were, it's being 60 at the prime of their life when they had so much knowledge and energy and had such a long life ahead of them, to being forced to go out and retire. I don't know what the word means, but I felt that what I did in starting my second firm at age 72, and as you know, my most recent firm, Primetime Partners, I started 3 years ago at age 85. And if you believe what I say in the book is I'm going to live to 114, at 60, you've only lived half your life. So it's a bifurcated objective. One on for younger people to go out and take advantage of every opportunity, even while you're young. Get involved. Don't just sit in the periphery. And for older people, don't shut down and go play golf and go swimming or whatever else you want to do, but do something, go back in the same business again and start all over, or become a poet, or go back to school, or do something constructive with your life instead of retiring. Long answer to your short
No, I
question.
mean that. Listen, I mean this is the reason why you are a role model to me and so many people that are in our industry. I met you 26 years ago. I was an impressionable 33-year-old, and I found your business career at that time incredibly fascinating. And just think about what you've done over the last 26 years. You went to Burning Man at age 87. You ran the New York Marathon. I think. Well, how old were you, Alan? 88 when
80,
you ran. When
88.
you 88 when you ran the New York Marathon. And in so many ways, you're my role model. Let's go back for a second. You formed your first venture in firm in 1970, and then you formed your second venture firm in 2006. You were 72 at the time, right? And so, let's go back for a second. Um, what were you thinking about in 1970? And you are, to me, one of the most neurally plastic people I've ever met. So you're able to adapt from going to, let's say, the metals industry into the semiconductor industry or into biotech and so many different things. So what were you thinking about in 1970? How has the world changed since 1970? And what are you thinking about today?
Well, I went into the venture business, which, by the way, wasn't even called a business until 1973 when the National Venture Capital Association was formed. And by the way, they had their 50th anniversary a month ago, and I was honored as one of the by three other people, one in memorial, Don Valentine from Sequoia, as legends in the business. So I was there at the beginning of an industry, but I got into it because I had been managing public portfolios for a family group, not my family. I couldn't afford a family group then or probably now, but I saw that we were offered private investments all the time, and because of the owners or the family, and because of various people in the firm, they always wanted to take a piece of that or a piece of that, and we ended up with a portfolio of, I don't know, 10 or 15 companies that no one paid any attention to except me. I got intrigued with all these private investments, and it was during that time in the late 60s that I financed New York Magazine and became chairman of the board of the company. I started Lind Broadcasting, which was the television and radio business, and a company called Datascope in the medical electronics business. And I said, boy, this is really much more fun and more interesting than being an investor in General Motors or IBM and wait for the next quarterly report and have no involvement at all. These other companies I was in a day-to-day in touch with. I felt the pulse of the business, and I was fascinated with that close attachment. And I said, there are lots of family groups out there who are doing exactly what the one I was working for was doing, which was, primarily a public portfolio, but once in a while dabbling. Why don't I just set up a business to advise those people, those family groups, what to do in the world of private investing? And that's was the origin of the start of the firm. And I had started with 9 family clients, and I started with a fund of $2.5 million, and that's where it all started. And from then on, it got built bigger and bigger as I got more and more funds, and went to Europe and expanded to the point where early 2000 I was running. We changed the name over the years because we were in 12 countries, and we went from Alan Patricof Associates to APACS, which was obviously an acronym of my name, with the X being for international. And I said, the business, we become so big, we were now a private equity firm, and I wasn't really having the same kind, my juices weren't flowing the same way. And it was the time of the bubble, which, that I talk about juices. I mean, that was a poison pill every day. And I decided to do something else with my life. I didn't know what it was. And I ended up spending 3, 4, 5 years working with the World Bank and International Development Corporation, IFC, to help them start entrepreneurial activities around the world. Got involved as an advisor to the president of Nigeria, and I had a great other period of my life. And then in 2006, I decided, venture looks more attractive again, and now I'm going to take all the things I learned in my first phase of my life and, start a new firm, Venture Graycroft, with different ideas behind it, different orientation, and an intention to stay a venture firm. So that's part of your answer. The other part is that when we started in 1970, I love that word, neuroplasticity. I would say eclectic. I would say diversified. I would say organic. In 1970, you didn't. This wasn't the same. I mean, we deals didn't call up every day and say, "I need money." I mean, you had to go out and find opportunities to invest in. I mean, at Primetime Partners, we've been in business 3 years. We've now logged in over 1,300 deals. I would say after 3 years at Alan Patricof Associates in 1970, we may have logged in 30 or 40 deals. It was a really sparse area. So that's why you were referring to the fact that my first investment was in the secondary lead smelting business. The second was in semiconductors. The third was in animal feed supplements. I think the fourth was a precursor of the internet. But I mean, it was a very diversified portfolio. You couldn't be technology oriented and be in New York. The guys in Silicon Valley who were spin-offs of Fairchild Semiconductor, had the luxury of being in the heart of technology at that time. But that said, I've lived through what I call, 4 or 5 revolutions in my career in the venture business, which is now, now there's a tremendous demand for venture money. But in those days, you had to explain to people what a venture capitalist did and how we weren't going to take over their company and how we were just going to be board of directors and be minority shareholders. There was a lot of educating to be done. Today, you don't have to educate anybody. Everybody knows what a venture capitalist does and how they should behave.
I mean, it's amazing. Your stories are amazing. I guess I want to harp on the neuroplasticity for a second because I know that you're a meditator. You meditate,
Yeah, not as much as I
and
should. Not as much as I
okay, but
should,
I
but
know
I
you're a
do.
runner,
Yeah.
and so I believe in the mind soul body connection. You've been feeding that for the 9 decades, basically. So tell us a little bit about that. What is your exercise regimen? How do you think about it? How do you think about eating? How do you clear your thoughts and sort of hit the Control Alt Delete for your brain so you can reset it?
Uh, I run on eight cylinders, maybe 12. Again, no red lights. It really does describe a lot of how my life has been lived. And I live, again, you heard me say it, I live like a person who sincerely believes I'm going to live to 114. That has a lot to do. My psyche is such that I feel somewhat invincible. I'm going to get there somehow or other. I know if I don't get there, you can come to my funeral and laugh if you're still alive.
Mm-hmm.
But
No,
I live.
I expect you to outlive me.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Well,
do the
that's
best I can to get to 113, but I think you're going to blow right by me. And I don't
yeah.
think you're stopping at 114. By the way,
And
I think you.
anyone who's involved with me really has to keep pace, whether it's literally walking down the street because I still walk very fast, or whether they keep up with the regimen. I do. For example, I have 3 events every night. Tonight, I have a 3 event night. Uh, a cocktail reception for a business event, a theater, and then I have also a dinner for a major political figure, which I hope to get to, and I managed to do all three. Somehow I do it. I uh, I have a unusual. You'd almost call it a quirk. I weigh myself twice a day when I get up in the morning and when I go to sleep. And if I gain more than 2 pounds during the day, I skip one meal the next day. Not a very scientific procedure. I am careful. I try not to, overdo in eating, but I don't have any specific diet. I walk every place I go. Every place I will. I walk to work today, and I still have an office at Graycroft, which is on 40th Street, New York. I walk down there, then I walk to Primetime on 52nd, then or vice versa. Then I walk home on 76th Street. If I go to the doctor, I'll walk from one of these places to a doctor's office. When I go to the theater tonight, I'll walk to the theater. So I end up putting in 5-6 miles a day during the week, and maybe 10 or more miles a day in the weekend. And I also bike ride. So it's very simple. I have a trainer 3 days a week who I've changed trainers. My book talks a lot about the trainer I had for 25 years. He recently moved away after 25 years, and I have now found a new trainer who is a middleweight boxer for his career. So he puts me through a regimen that is really, at the end of it, I'm really exhausted, I have to say. When I was training for the marathon, I had, in addition, a running coach who ran with me 3 days a week. And it really was more jogging and walking. I don't want to say running. Last time I ran the marathon, I ran it 40 years ago at age 48. I actually was 47, and my time was 3:31. Then I was really running. Now it's just staying your feet long enough that counts. But nothing other than that. But I think most important is my mindset. More important than anything, if you believe, there are people my age who just don't feel the energy anymore, who've slowed down.
Yeah.
I went to a high school called Horace Mann in New York, and we have, believe it or not, reunions every 2 months. Some character in the class decided it would be nice if we all got together as long as we're still alive. Actually, one of our most prominent classmates died just recently, a fellow named Roger Payne, who was the expert in the world on the sounds of whales. An amazing obit too in the Times. But we get together, and there are still 12 or 15 who come. And the reason I tell you this is they run the lunch near my office because I'm the only one who works. Everybody comes in on a walker or a cane. Every one of them is wearing a hearing aid. So I look around the room and I say to myself, I think I'm a freak. I mean, I have no hearing aid and I have no support structure, and I still work every day. But, I think whatever I've done, it's kept me in pretty good shape at this stage.
So you got 60-year-old entrepreneurs. You got those that are 30. The mindset, as you said, people, they hear a number and then they start thinking like the number. In your mind, Alan, how old are you?
Oh, I would say early 60s.
Early 60s.
I
Yeah.
I test myself very often with people who, like you were seeing talking. You know me, but people who don't know me, and I'll say to them, "How old do you think I am?" Or I'll say it truthfully to my barber, to this new trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, no one, no one believes I am the age I am, uh, and I don't either. So I went. Yeah, I went. You don't know. You're up. You're not totally up. I went parachute. I don't know what you call it. Paragliding. I didn't jump off a mountain, but I went with these things where you get in a contraption and a boat pulls you up in the air. I did that over Christmas, which shocked everybody I was with. But I try things. I have a positive attitude. I can't stand people who say I'll get to it next week. I just do it in real time, and I think that's part of it.
Okay, so a couple of tough things are going on. But you're no stranger to tough things and cycles. You've got the Silicon Valley Bank failure, Signature Bank, First Republic got sold to J.P. Morgan. Um, where do you think we are in terms of the investment cycle? And what would you say to people based on your life experience about where we are right now?
Well, first let me say one thing, Anthony, and uh, I would have hesitated perhaps to say this before the debacle of a month or two ago, but the thesis of venture financing, as practiced by those banks, is really, in my mind, and it could cause a lot of controversy by this, but I think it's a flawed concept because it's not lending. It's giving money to companies who could never deserve to have a loan, and betting on the concept that the venture investors will not let that property go and that they will come in a subsequent round and bail out the company. And therefore, I will lend a company with no revenues money on a 4 year term with interest only once they draw it down. And I will make my money. First of all, I would make my money from my interest and I get paid. I'm sorry, interest only during the period. Forgive me, it's a balloon payment and no amortization during the period. And I will make my money from warrants I have plus the interest because I know I'm going to get my loan is good. Uh, the fact is, this is very, very, very marginal and precarious. And I think that that form of financing may go away if new people are coming into the business to take over that. Uh, and we will have something else replacing it, which may not be quite as favorable as the kind of financing. Now, what impact that has had? Uh, Very, very little on venture financing. The demise of those banks, or the hiccup we went through 2 months ago, it's almost like, what was that about? What Signature Bank? Who are they? Uh, I mean, obviously, people went through a very scary weekend, and I did too, as to whether the cash in the bank was going to be secured. But I think it woke up people to understanding what this kind of financing was, and fortunately, all that money was made good, and the
Mm-hmm.
loans were executed. And people who have, I think they're still getting loans, but I don't know what the terms are.
Yeah,
But
I think some of the political rhetoric around it, people don't understand that you can't once you start capital destruction at the banks, the domino effect is too deadly for people, and I think they made the right decisions to backstop these banks, and
oh,
hopefully they
they had no choice. If they hadn't, I'd hate to be here today talking to you if they
right.
hadn't
No, there would have been a
made
capital
people.
implosion. No,
They hadn't
the
made
whole
people comfortable with the
yeah, the whole
cash they
thing's
had.
based on trust. You and I
Yeah,
both know that.
yeah.
So,
But I think the in the current environment, I think we are very vulnerable to a lot of exogenous events. What happens in Ukraine, what happens in the election, what happens into your past employer, Mr. Trump, and what implications that have, what we're going to go through during this whole election cycle, and what how people will behave. A lot in Washington, but people acting defensively as to what will take place. And I think we're going for a period of, I think there'll be more, not less, regulations. I know that Republicans would like to see the regulations go away, but I think, I think people like the FDIC, people realize is very important. I think we're going to see crypto regulation. So I'd be shocked if we didn't, and I think it's appropriate. I think we're fortunately the AI situation is being addressed very early on. I mean, in a way, the AI industry is only 4 months old.
why do you think Gary Gensler and people like Elizabeth Warren are so hostile to the cryptocurrency businesses in the U.S.?
I think a lot of it has to do with not really understand. It's really not. I think blockchain is here to stay, and I think that crypto in some form will be around. I think what we've had is too much excess froth and excitement about it, and people speculating, and all the every young person I know has played in cryptocurrencies, and that kind of speculation makes regulators nervous. I mean, it's no different than playing with penny stocks. And I think until there, I mean, I must say I am intrigued by the fact that during the collapse of Signature and et al. At SVB, Bitcoin went from 26,000 down to 16,000, and it held. And today, the last time I looked, it's around 26,000.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very strong indicator. The fact
Mm-hmm.
that it's here to stay. Ethereum's here to stay. But I think having some regulations around it will give comfort to in terms of specifically the platforms and the market makers. And as I was saying, also, I think ChatGPT is something that if there are so many people have started companies in the last 120 days, or uh, I don't want to even say this is the first of the year. It's probably since March that we're going to see. We've seen a ton of money come into this area. A lot of people. There's going to be a lot of people burned, and there'll be some successes too. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that the European Union, as you probably know, is ahead of the pack, and they're just like they were with GBTR. They got ahead of the pack in terms of making regulations for general practices of advertising on the internet. Uh, the internet was the Wild West, and then it should have had perhaps some regulations around it, like Chat GPT is getting now. And, we would have had answers to Section 230 and things like that early on. But,
Mm-hmm.
but these things take it in that case take longer. I think now we're going to see some constructive rules. I'll use the word rules rather than even regulations that will give people more comfort about what's happening, and what it's a mysterious world until you really start using it and understanding it.
So about China for a second. I know you're a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. The rise of China has people concerned. The VC situation in China, the U.S. investments there, the manufacturing connection between the United States and China, and of course the looming threat against Taiwan. And obviously, we are manufacturing 90-ish% of our most important semiconductors on the island of Formosa. So, what are your thoughts on the whole Chinese Taiwan U.S. situation?
I think that we are inextricably tied to China, whether China likes it or U.S. likes it. We've got to have some kind of rapprochement, some what's the word, denouement, some way of
Yeah.
working together
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, to come up with some peaceful solutions. I can't possibly envision China invading Taiwan. With After this current situation that took place in Ukraine, there's just too much world, antagonism against any kind of, huge conflagration. So I think we've got to find some way of working. I was encouraged by the fact that the Secretary of State is going over there now and having that visit, and so I think we've got to find some peaceful way of working together. I do think, though, that people should rightly be concerned about their investments, and what regulations could come up in the interim from both sides that would inhibit investing on from one to the other. So it's a good time to be cautious.
You think we'll ever get it back? Meaning I'll take you back to one of your personal friends, President Clinton. I would say that was probably the apex in my lifetime. Maybe you feel differently, but certainly in my adult lifetime, I should say, maybe Nixon and Mao were the opening. But I feel like the year 1999 into 2000 and the introduction of the Chinese into the World Trade Organization was sort of the apex of the Chinese U.S. diplomatic relations. You correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay, and so do you think we could ever get back there?
I think maybe not there. I mean, at that time, you know, the that's 20 years, 20
Yeah,
plus years.
20
China was
30.
a
Yeah.
different country then. China is a much stronger force today, economically, militarily, financially, and I think they want to be treated on an equal footing with the U.S. And I think we have to recognize their importance and treat them appropriately. Uh, I think it's a shame that uh, what Michael Froman was working on in the Obama administration of the
The
Asian
TPP. Yep.
TP didn't go through that. And by the way, he's the new president of the Council on Foreign Relations. Uh, the person who was behind that for the
Yep.
head of U.S. U.S.
Yep.
Trade
Yeah,
Representative,
Michael's a good
USTR.
guy. I went to law school with Michael, and I think he's a really good guy.
Yeah, it's good selection. So I think that that time we had some opportunities to. Uh, I don't think we're going to walk away from that area of the world. I mean, that's clear. So whatever it is, I think we have to all be very cautious about and tread lightly. I don't think this is, something we should do anything precipitous, or hopefully they won't.
I think it's very well said. All right, we're at the part of this podcast where I'm going to read out 5 words. Okay, some of them are themes, some of them are just words. I want you to respond to them any way you see fit. Ready?
Anthony, before you do that, can I just make one pitch? We didn't get into it
Yes.
all.
Yep.
The new firm that I started 3 years ago, Primetime Partners, is focused on the aging population, the fastest growing part of the population, with more money to spend, living in spite of the age expectation that happened because of COVID and a lot of other events. But people are living longer in general, and it's probably been a neglected area. And
Mm-hmm.
I talk about people living, at 60, not retiring. They all need something, being sick or not being sick, whether it's caregiving or new entertainment or new travel or new financial services, new everything. So I just want to put a pitch in because it's unfortunately not, it's not a sexy subject. Chat GPT is sexy. Investing or thinking about the needs of the elderly is not sexy. Nevertheless, we're all going to get there. Some longer than others. We're all good. Many people are going to need caregiving, whether they like it or not. So, the more aware, I feel we set out as Primetime to be, in addition to investors in everything related to this area, to be thought leaders in this area, and it needs a lot more attention. So now your 5 words.
Yeah, listen, I think it's great. I'm glad you brought it up. I want to support everything that you're doing, and I want to start with the first word, which I think is so relevant to this conversation: longevity. How do you think about longevity?
Perfect. What you only want one word answers?
No, no. I want
No.
you to. Yeah, you
Oh,
can have a stream of
I
consciousness.
think it's I think
You
it's
can
a
have a thought
very
stream.
I think it's a very, very hot subject. Everybody today wants to live longer, and there are all kinds of services. We've invested in a couple that are designed to improve. I have one company called Cenegenics, which is clinics around the country where people go to get uh, analysis of their biomarkers, and then they get trained, and then to learn about what right for nutrition and exercise and hormones and nutraceuticals, all about extending the life cycle. So longevity is number one on my list of interesting areas.
Okay. Curiosity, which I think is tied to longevity.
Cur- Curiosity, certainly it's endemic in anyone who wants to be in the venture capital business. I'm not so sure about an entrepreneur because that's really more focused, but a venture capitalist, if they don't have curiosity, they ought to go into another business. You've got to always keep your eyes open, read everything, observe everything. I frankly love people who are curious. The friends I've made over my life that are close with me, and I could name some of them to you, all have evidenced and practiced a life of curiosity, of trying new things, of being open-minded, and so that's my answer for curiosity.
Okay. Location.
That's an interesting one. That one I don't have a quick answer. Location. Um, I, I'll refer to my own business, and which has been focused on the East Coast and the West Coast to an obsession somewhat. And when I started the venture business, it was Boston and San Francisco or Silicon Valley that were they owned it all. So when I started in New York, it was very thin pickings. I eventually went to Silicon Valley in Apex, but today when I started when I started Graycroft in 2006, I opened in New York and Los Angeles. And I would say today, New York and Los Angeles are probably the hottest areas in the venture business. We're not going to replace Silicon Valley, although there's a lot of mixed signals out of there. Boston, I think, has become number, in my mind, three or four.
Sure.
It's associated with
Mhm.
somewhat with the biotech industry, not as much as it used to. A
Yep.
lot of people from Boston moved out to Silicon Valley or down to New York. So
Mhm.
I would say the biggest, fastest, newest growth area has been Los Angeles, which is booming.
Well, you and I are both old enough to remember Digital Equipment Corporation. Remember?
I
Up on the
absolutely,
I-95 corridor, right? Or
absolutely.
how about the legendary
Route
uh,
120. It used to be Route 128. Now it's
route?
now
Yeah,
it's
right.
280 and 101.
Right,
Or the
exactly. Yeah,
or the
very,
four
very,
or a 405, excuse me, to follow my Los Angeles metaphor. It's the 405.
very, very, very interesting stuff. I mean, and the guy, and I know you knew Fred Adler, and he used to come and speak at Harvard Law School when I was a kid. And you're talking about Data General. Remember, take you way back, Alan. Right?
Listen, I was on a panel the other day with Osborne from the Osborne. Well, at
Sure.
Jeff Sonnenfeld's Yale CEO summit.
Yeah.
Osborne was on, and he was talking about the early days of Data General and
Right.
digital equipment and
Yeah.
and
I
uh,
mean,
and the personal computer.
yeah. I just think about where we've gone. Okay, two more. Okay.
By the way, let me
Uh,
add one thing.
yeah.
That when for many years, I tried to interest uh, APACs and even less Graycraft, more APACs, but Graycraft also about investing in Africa, because I think people don't spend enough time thinking about that continent, and it's had all kinds of problems. And we've got Sudan now, and we've got, I mean, every day. But you can't dismiss that Nigeria has. I don't know if it's 250 million people or 300. You've got all South Africa. You've got Africa is a real opportunity
Mhm.
zone, and
Mhm.
you're starting to see venture capitalists going there. But
No
I think
question.
increasing interest will be in that area.
No question. All right, two more. You ready? Company. Well, an example. Which one excites you right now?
Uh, Gee, I don't, I, I'm hesitant to mention. First of all, anything I'm involved in is private.
Right.
Uh,
How about a
so
sector? How about a sector?
yeah. What am I going to tell you? Of course, I'm interested in anything to do with the aging society.
Right.
Uh, there are
Right.
so
Okay.
many things, and yet I, I couldn't give you a household name in that area. it's weird. It's really an emerging area. Not, I mean, you'd say older people have been around forever, but I think it's only in the last couple of years that people are been starting companies, and they're mostly all in the early stage field. So I think it's premature to. I mean, we have a company called Safe Ride, which is provide. You think of Uber, but it's really very specialized in delivering people who have medical problems. And but believe me, it's not. It's getting them to the doctor's office, getting them out of the house, getting them delivered, getting them into the hospital, getting them picked up in the right time. You can't make mistakes. We have another company called, as I said to you, Cenegenics, which runs longevity clinics. We have another company called Open Loop, which helps doctors find nurses or caregivers, which is very hard to find, and enables people to have a remote recruiting source. These are very fast growing companies at the moment. So, stay tuned and, ask me this another year or two, and we'll see which ones
Well, I love
really.
it.
We have another company called 𝗕𝗺, which is a catalog company for needs of older people. I mean, we have 50 odd million people who are dealing with caregiving, and they have to know what to buy and how to buy and where to buy it. It's not Amazon. It's got much more specialized needs.
Well, I really appreciate you joining me today. It's always phenomenal. The title of your book, No Red Lights: Reflection on Life, 50 Years in Venture Capital and Never Driving Alone, loaded with witticism, loaded with wisdom, and you're a fun guy to hang out with. You're a lot hipper than some of my 60-year-old friends. Okay, I'm turning 60 this year, Mister Patricof. I want to hang out with you, not these old
are
geezers,
you are
not
you
these
gonna
60-year-old geezers.
are you gonna celebrate?
Well, I actually prefer 69. That's my favorite number, so I'm going to wait
I'm
for the
going.
69th birthday.
I'm going to Bob De Niro's 80th birthday party next month in August,
There you go.
and he just had a 3 month old,
Yeah, God
no,
bless
three
him.
week old child.
Well, he's like you. He's going to live to 114, so that child's going to get to know him very well.
Listen, look at all the movies he does. I mean,
Yeah.
he's in like 4 or 5 movies a year.
No,
It's amazing.
he's an impressive guy.
Yeah.
I know Pacino better than De Niro, but I've met him a few times. Very impressive. Well, lots of love to you, and hopefully I'll see you in the Hamptons.